Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. Amid growing frustration that the president is not doing enough on police reform and protecting voting rights, the Biden administration unveiled new efforts today to address election integrity. Biden and Vice President Harris met privately with several civil rights groups late this afternoon at the White House. Here's how some of them summarized that meeting.
We came here at the invitation of the president to underscore the state of emergency that this country faces.
The president and the vice president working arm in arm. They understand the sense of urgency. We are in a state of emergency. We know it. On our watch, history is a great teacher.
Our backs are against the wall. This is the moment. There is no more time. We must have legislation. We must have the president use his voice, use his influence, use his power, and use what he clearly understands about this moment.
President Biden, who was MIA and did not appear with the group after the meeting, still apparently intends to give a major speech on voting rights, although no date has been given for that yet. He also said he was going on the road on the issue, remember that? But no word on that either. Meanwhile, VP Harris announced a major expansion to the DNC's I Will Vote campaign from Howard University earlier in the day. Take a listen.
With this $25 million, the Democrats are investing in the tools and technology to register voters, to educate voters, to turn out voters, to protect voters. Our vote matters. Your voice matters. And we are going to fight to make sure that all the people's voices are heard.
All this comes on the same day that Texas Republicans are attempting to once again ram through their voter suppression bill, this time in a special session called by Governor Abbott. It's the bill that was blocked by Democrats during the legislature's regular session back in May. Also, a Pennsylvania Republican is asking counties to hand over ballots and election equipment for an Arizona-styled audit. He's threatening subpoenas if counties don't comply. And a federal judge has declined to block parts of Georgia's controversial voting law. As the Atlanta Journal-Constitution notes, 8 other lawsuits against the law are still pending in federal court, but it could take years for the cases to work their way through the federal court system. Joining me now to discuss is co-founder of Indivisible, Ezra Levin, and the CEO of the New Georgia Project, Nse Ufot. Thank you both for being here. I'll start with you, Ezra. It feels like the administration is coming into the game in the fourth quarter in respect to using the bully pit with its full force. And even there, it's not quite full force. How do you see the Biden administration's position on the issue of voting rights over the last 6 months?
Yeah, is this the fourth quarter? Is this double overtime? Is this a couple seconds left on the clock? It's certainly late in the game. I think you're absolutely right. This is our star player. This is somebody who we all worked so hard to get in the game, and he's been on the sidelines. That's the disappointing thing so far. So we've heard from Nancy Pelosi that this is a priority for her. She's pushed it through the House. She pushed it as fast as she could through the House of Representatives. We've heard from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer that failure is not an option. I'm leading Indivisible. There are over 350 local events all over the country led by Indivisibles and others this week and last week to push for the For the People Act, democracy reform. Where is the president? Where has the president been? We've heard, yes, he's going to come out. He's going to show up. He's going to give a speech. He's going to travel. When's it going to happen? It's got to happen soon because, as we heard from the civil rights leaders you just showed, time is running out. If we don't get this done before the August recess, it's too late to implement the gerrymandering provisions that are in that bill. So I truly, truly hope the president and the vice president get in the game because we desperately need them now.
And as Ezra points out, time is running out. I mean, the idea that we would have infinite amount of time to put pressure on particular holdout legislators like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, it's just not real. That it is this month, next month, or else. And what the courts are showing us is that they are not likely to step in to block these bills. And that is most recently visible in the Georgia outcome, where the court refused to step in. What do congressional Democrats need to do at this point to move this forward, because the states can't do it?
I think that, one, congressional Democrats absolutely need to sort of dispense with this notion that bipartisanship is some virtue that we must pursue at the expense of voting rights, at the expense of, maintaining our elections infrastructure and the infrastructure that props up our democracy. Two, that if they believe, like we do, that this is an urgent matter, that this is a priority, that this is the precedent that needs to be solidified before they can move on anything on their agenda, then they need to act like it. Right? That we need to see people making noise. We need to see members making statements. $25 million, I think that's an amazing start. And, I'm encouraged by that sort of, that overture from the administration. But in fact, we need much more. In fact, listen, I began my career as a union organizer. I absolutely want to see the American Jobs Act pass, right? We absolutely want to see the American Families Act pass. And Mitch McConnell has been absolutely clear that his goal is to say no to everything that is considered a priority from the Biden agenda. So what are we doing? What we need to see is them to act like they understand that this version of the Republican Party has no credibility, is not interested in governing, and is in fact the Republican crime syndicate who doesn't want to investigate their domestic terrorism activities. And we need to stop playing.
Ezra, as Nse pointed out, they threw $25 million at this problem today, and that is welcomed by people who are organizers who very often go without very much funding at all. But we're talking about big level politics here. Your presidential campaigns now are billion-dollar affairs. The idea that you can fix it by giving organizers more money, in this case, relatively speaking, small amounts of money, is that an answer? Is that even a Band-Aid on what is coming down the pike in terms of these bits of legislation?
Charles, unfortunately, I think it's a red herring, to be quite frank. I did as much research as I could on this quote-unquote I Will Vote program that the DNC has been running. The only mentions that I could find of it in the last couple of years was a 2018 fundraising gala they held to try to raise money, and a 2019 fundraising gala that they held to try to raise money for this. I got an email from the DNC within an hour of the vice president's speech asking for what? For money for the I Will Vote program. I think this is a nice fundraising ask for them, but if you think you're going to combat the rising tide of fascism throughout the country, if you think you're going to roll back Mitch McConnell's assault on democracy, if you think you're going to stop the avalanche of voter suppression bills making their way through GOP-led states in this country with a $25 million, fundraising gala, I don't know what to tell you. We need legislation. We need legislation, and we have it. It's passed the House. It's got 50 votes in the Senate. We need to overcome the filibuster. We need to pass the For the People Act. We need to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and we need to save our damn democracy. Enough with these fundraisers. Get this legislation through. This is why we elected you.
One of the jaw-dropping parts of these state legislations is actually not even the voter suppression, which we had gotten used to, I guess. You live long enough, you see people try to suppress votes, and they go through all sorts of mechanisms to try to do that. The jaw-dropping part, though, is the result alteration part. of these bills, which is giving local officials more authority to overturn election results. Can you talk to our viewers about how fundamentally profound and problematic those parts of the legislations are?
Right. It is evil. I think that it is super clear that the Republicans agree that in the marketplace of ideas, fewer and fewer people are buying what they're selling. And the only way for them to hold on to power is to cheat, is to take a sledgehammer to our elections infrastructure. And that's what we're seeing in this moment. And so, yes, a lot has been written about, the voter suppression provisions in this bill. But what is most insidious, what is most problematic are what you just mentioned, Charles, the voter nullification procedures. That if the state legislature does not like the outcome in a particular election or how an election was prosecuted or managed in a particular county, then they have the right and the ability to overturn the results of that election. In fact, replacing the will of the people, the will of the voters, with their own analysis, with their own will, with their own decisions. Not only that, but Georgia's Senate Bill 202, which is our anti-voting bill, much like the one that's being introduced in 46 other states, it includes 5 new crimes. 2 of them are felonies. So, criminalizing handing out water to voters who is, Georgia has made international news for the 9, 10, 11-hour lines that citizens have had to wait in order to exercise the franchise. It's now illegal to fill out your absentee ballot with anyone else in the room who isn't a spouse, a child, or a parent. You will be prosecuted if you take a selfie with your ballot. That is going directly at Gen Z. And you know that Georgia, in its 159 counties, has a handful of prosecutors that are ambitious and that are right-wing, and that will absolutely go on Instagram and find young people to prosecute with pictures of their ballots. It's insane. And again, my concern isn't that this sort of their agenda is going to encourage people to vote for conservative candidates. It's that people will withdraw from the process altogether, that it will continue to be more confusing, that an inconvenience. If you are an hourly wage worker, you don't have 9 hours on a Tuesday, a work day, to stand in line in order to vote. That people will make the decision that this is not worth it, and our democracy will be weaker as a result of that.
Ezra and Nse, thank you so much for your time. I fear that we are in hot water, and too many people at the top are like the frog who doesn't realize the water is getting hotter until they're cooked. And I hope that's not the case, but I fear that it is. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
After